Hi guys, happy Friday! We made it to another Friday, first Friday in 2020, so happy New Year as well. The last time I saw you guys was on Monday, and that was last year. It's weird that you can say that. So, how is everyone? It is a kind of a rainy, gray, gross day today, but I am not letting that get me down because I have so much fun stuff going on and so many fun things to share with you guys and to talk about. And everybody's starting to filter in. There's Rachel and Joan and Kelly. Hi guys. I'm trying not to look at myself. I got shampoo. I'm having a very Monday Friday, right? I got shampoo in my eyes this morning. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah. So I look like I've had a few before I came on. Like my eyes are all red and glassy, and yeah, no, trust me, it's just shampoo. One of those days. Oh my gosh. Hi, Mimi. Hi, Tina. So glad to see you guys here. So, Rachel's here, mojo or not. There's Miss Caitlin. Hey, girl. So, Rachel, you know that I was not going to let a Facebook Live, sorry, I have hair. I wasn't going to let a Facebook Live go by without mentioning this because it is kind of like the beginning of the, well, obviously, it's not kind of like the beginning of the year. It is the beginning of the year, and it's also winter time, and I know that this time of year in particular can be really hard on creative types. So I did want to just take a second to talk to not just Rachel, but everybody out there who may be in a creative slump at the moment. Okay, so here's the truth. It happens to all of us. It absolutely happens to all creative types, no matter whether you are a jewelry maker or a writer or you paint or whatever it is that your medium may be. Losing your mojo is one of those things that happens to all of us, and it is particularly tough when it is cold and the day is shorter and the nights are longer. There's less sunshine going on. The weather is not necessarily friendly. All of those things can kind of bring in the funk. Just like Kelly said, it can bring the funk in. And so if you're feeling like you're in the funk creatively right now, just know that number one, you are not alone. I know people say that all the time. It's so cliche. You're not alone. That doesn't necessarily make it any better, right? But it is true that we're all subject to those moments. And as a matter of fact, Nile and I had a conversation about this not too long ago, actually, because when you're particularly in a situation like this where we do Facebook Lives, and so I have to have a project prepared, right? I have to have a project for here. I have to have one for Jesse James Beads. I have to have one for Silver Silk. So I've got 3 projects on my plate. That doesn't include all the YouTube stuff that I've got going on and a new one that I'm going to be telling you guys about here in just a second. But I've got my plate is full, right? And so creatively, sometimes it's hard to be on. Like, I've got to create. I have to make something to share with you guys, and sometimes I'm just not feeling it. And Nile is the same way. Like, we had this conversation about how it can be difficult when you're forced to be creative, like, because creativity is really organic, right? It's not necessarily something that happens on a schedule. And because of the kinds of jobs that we have, it is kind of hard to always be creative and it work out on a timeline. So some weeks I give you a project and I don't love it. I'm not going to lie. There are times when I give you a project and I feel like, gosh, that's not my best work. You know, I don't love that. And then there are other times when I'm like, I can't wait to get to Facebook Live so that I can show you the project. So I know that's really kind of neither here nor there, but I just want you to know that me, Nile, Sarah James, Sarah Ayler, Kristen Fagan, we all go through it, right? Meredith Roddy, Wyatt White, we all go through the funk. Everybody does. And this time of year, it's tough. So you're not alone. I don't know that that makes much of a difference, but the truth is, you're not alone. And my best solution for it is to walk away from it for a little while, right? Don't put any pressure on yourself because that just makes it worse. That just makes you feel like you're failing, right? Don't put any pressure on yourself. Give yourself grace. Walk away from it. Put everything down. If you need to take a break, you guys know I was gone for an entire year, a whole year, 12 whole months. Finally, my therapist was like, girl, you've got to stop, right? You got to get back on that horse. And when I came back stronger, feeling better. I'm more confident. And I'm not saying take a year off, but what I am saying is that if you need to walk away from it for 30 minutes or 2 days or a week, do it. Take some self-care, right? That's all the new year is about. I don't do resolutions, but I definitely do setting intentions. And my intentions for the new year are to take some self-care. So Rachel, if you're out there, take some self-care steps. Walk away from the jewelry for a little while. Think of some other things you can do that make you feel good, and take care of yourself. It'll come back. It always does, right? Creative types, we have to create. If we don't, we go a little crazy. So it'll come back. All right, so off the soapbox, I just needed to share that, right? I mean, because we're all friends here. We have to chat and we have to talk about things like that. So, the jewelry making Yoda. That's so funny. Okay, so speaking of the jewelry making Yoda, you guys, I was thinking this morning before we get to the project, and it's a good one. I can't wait. This is a good one. But I was thinking this morning that perhaps, now this is all going to be based on what your response to this is. I was thinking perhaps we should include a second Facebook Live in the week here at Sarah Ellis Designs, and that the second Facebook Live would not be a project per se, but more of a jewelry making Q&A. What do you think? So the reason that this came up is because a lot of times I get questions. I get not just a few. I get tons of questions about jewelry making, about creative process, about, steps for certain things, whatever. Lots of jewelry making questions. I do get some other questions, but keeping it jewelry related, I was thinking that what we could do is on Monday afternoons, because Monday, I have the funks on Monday, right? And I feel like if I give myself a Facebook Live on Mondays, that's just going to be like a lift me up and a good way to start the week. So I'm thinking Monday afternoons. I'm thinking 5 o'clock Eastern time. You guys let me know. I don't want to overlap with anybody else that does Facebook Lives on Monday afternoons. So I'm kind of relying on you. Let me know if there's somebody else that is on at 5 o'clock on Mondays, and I will shift it around a little bit and change it. I know that Kristen does one from 1 to 2, I believe, so I definitely don't want to go any earlier in the afternoon because I don't want to overlap with her. So, yeah, that's my thought. I'm thinking Mondays, we'll pick a time. I'll post it on Sarah Ellis Designs Facebook page, and then you guys can come in. And the way that it would work would be, instead of going through the comments and having a question and answer session that way, I feel like if I give you a week in advance, right? We've got a week, well, maybe not this Monday. I don't know. We'll work it out. It doesn't matter. It'll either be this Monday or the next Monday. I'll let you know for sure. But send me a message, right, with the header. Make sure it says Monday Q&A, and then ask me your question, okay? And I won't answer your question via message, so don't think I'm being rude. I'm going to take the questions, and I will come on Monday afternoons, and we'll go through some of the questions that I was asked the previous week, and we'll walk through them. And we're not necessarily going to make any jewelry, but it will give me an opportunity to flip the camera down to the bead mat, and if we need to walk through the process of something step by step, we can do it that way, right? So it's still going to be learning stuff. We're just not going to make a finished piece of jewelry. So what do you guys think? I thought it would be fun. I think it's a good way to start the new year out, because this is going to give you an opportunity to, number one, ask questions that not only me, but everybody else has hopefully an answer for. If I don't know the answer, I can find it. We have a great resource in each other. So I think this is going to be a really fun way to learn from each other and kind of share and have a little bit more chit chat and nitty gritty when it comes to technique and things like that. So if you've got questions for the question and answer Mondays, send them to me here on the Facebook, the Sarah Ellis Designs Facebook, or you can send them to my personal messenger if we are friends that way. Friend me if we're not friends. All right, I'll save up the questions each week. I'll pick out the best ones and we will answer them. I think it'll be fun. If it doesn't work out, we won't do it. But you know what? We'll start it out and see how it goes. All right, so that all out of the way. Next is right now there is $10 off of the Magical Mystery Box subscriptions over on Jesse James Beads. You use the coupon code MYSTERY, put that in to get your $10 off. I'm going to be doing an unboxing very, very soon of the previous box. So don't miss out on that. If you didn't get Magical Mystery Box subscriptions for Christmas for yourself and you wanted it, now is your opportunity. Take the $10 and run with it. Okay, last but not least, I have one more exciting thing to tell you guys. So, I don't know if you guys know or not, but I work for Jesse James Beads, I work for Beadalon, and I work for Silver Silk, right? Well, Jesse James Beads happens to be a two-part company. Their second company is Dress It Up Buttons. And if you are not privy to Dress It Up Buttons, they are phenomenal, right? They are buttons of every style, every creative thing you could possibly think of, they've turned into a button, right? This company has been around forever and a million years. You can get Dress It Up buttons at Joann. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them everywhere. So anyway, I may or may not be working on some Dress It Up buttons projects coming up very, very soon. So please stay tuned. If you are not just a jewelry maker, but you also like to do crafts, I've got some crafts coming up for you guys. I've got some Valentine's Day crafts coming up. I've got some Easter crafts coming up. I've got a little bit of everything. I'm really, really excited to not only be a part of the Jesse James Beads family, but now I am also part of the Dress It Up Buttons family with Jesse James as well. So I'm really excited. I'm happy to share that with you guys. I cannot wait to share all of the crafty goodness, right? Jewelry and crafts, who doesn't love it? So that's my good news for 2020. Stay tuned for all of that. All right, let's get to this project. I do have other business. We'll get to it at the end because everybody's here to make some jewelry today, right? So today we're making a pendant and we are using some of the beautiful sapphire Swarovski beads from Jesse James Beads. We're using the strand that has the stars on it. And the name of this pendant is the Rising Star Pendant. I love stars. They really kind of speak to me as far as, you know, my job is concerned. I've always felt like I was in that role, kind of rising star, like doing everything I can to make my way up the ladder in the industry. And so stars are very special and significant to me. And this color blue is perfect for the color of the year, which happens to be classic blue. So the sapphire blue is very, very, very similar to classic blue, like it's pretty much spot on. So it's a good project for that, but it's also going to be a challenge. All right, so all of you negative Nancys out there, take a seat. Just take a seat. I'm just kidding. This project is not hard, okay? Don't freak out when you see this project. Please don't freak out. You can do this. Look me in the eye, okay? You can do this. I know you can. We're going to do some wire weaving. I'm going to teach you a really simple wire weaving technique that looks more complicated than it actually is. Give yourself grace. Give yourself some patience. Take it down a notch. Lower your expectations. It's not going to be perfect first try, okay? But you can do this. I know that you can. I have faith in you. Look me in the eye. When I give you guys challenging pieces, I always worry that you're like, I can't do that, it's too hard. You can do this one, okay? You can do this one. We're going to walk you through it. We're going to go slow, and we're going to put together something really, really beautiful, and hopefully you're going to practice this skill, and you can take it and run with it. So let's get to it. I'm excited. I'm excited, you guys. Let's do this. So let me adjust the lights just a bit for you guys and move this out of the way. Okay, so I don't know if you saw the teaser pic online or not. If you didn't, this is going to be the base of our pendant, right? Okay, this is without the beads, without all of the sparklies and the hanging down stuff, right? So, excuse me. we're going to create this using 2 pieces of 18 gauge wire and a very long piece of 26 gauge wire. Don't freak out. I know there are some of you out there going, I'm going to watch this, but I will never do this. Yes, you can try this. I promise you, just takes a little bit of practice. Just be kind to yourself. Practice that self-care that we've been talking about for the new year. We're only going to do wire weaving. We're only doing about 2.5 inches. Okay, so it's not even a really long, intricate piece. It's the same pattern the whole way around. We're going to start with 2 straight pieces, and then we're going to embellish this with some beads, okay? So the first thing you're going to need to do is you need to cut 2 pieces of 18 gauge wire. You can use a thicker gauge for this if you want to, but 18 gauge is a good place to start. Don't start with 20 gauge. If you do, you're just going to cause more problems for yourself in the long run. Okay, the 20 gauge is going to want to bend and change shape on you, and it's just going to create frustrations. So save yourself that step and go with the 18. If you really want to get nitty gritty, go up to the 16, okay? So I've got 2 pieces here, and we've got the ruler out. So if you have a ruler, grab it, because we're going to be using the ruler a bit. Okay, so 6 inches. I've got 2 6-inch pieces of 18 gauge wire, and then I have given myself about 45 inches. I know that's a lot. Okay, better safe than sorry, particularly if you're a beginner with this. You can add wire if you run out, but if you're just starting out, that is another headache you don't want to deal with right in the beginning. Okay, so give yourself plenty of 26 gauge wire for this. Run your fingers over it, make sure there aren't any kinks in it, warm it up, get it ready to work, okay? Warming it up is probably my #1 tip for using this style of wire. So Donna wants to know, are we using artistic wire or are we using German style wire? I am using German style wire for this because German style wire is made specifically for this kind of wire wrapping. If you use the artistic wire, you may, again, just like going down to the 20 gauge, you may end up more frustrated and walk away from it and never try it again, okay? So take this step. If you don't own any German style wire and you want to try this, definitely get the German style wire. Okay, so we're going to start fairly easy, okay? We're going to take one of these pieces of wire and I'm going to try to move everything out of my way because working with a really long piece of wire has a tendency to get caught on things and to want to kink up. So the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to attach this. We're going to anchor this 26 gauge wire to one of our 18 gauge wire pieces. And I'm coming down on the piece down here quite a bit. I'm giving myself at least 2.5 inches, 2 inches of tail wire here, okay? So come down. Doesn't have to be an exact measurement. That's totally fine. I'm going to wrap around once, and actually I got that crisscrossed. I need my tail wire to be coming this direction, okay? So I want to wrap around about 3 times just to anchor this wire onto the 18 gauge wire. Okay, so the cool thing about the 26 gauge wire is even though it's a German style wire, it's nice and soft because it's so small. So you're going to be able to really get in there with your fingernails and line the wire wraps up. And you are also going to be able to come in with your pliers. Your pliers are going to be your best friend because you can come in and squeeze those wire wraps together and it's going to line up nice and neat, okay? So, the question, were you talking about German style wire for the wrap? Yes, 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 yes. And actually for this part here, for the 18 gauge, I'm using German style wire for it too, but it doesn't really make nearly as much a difference as the wire wrapping wire itself. Okay, so the 26 gauge, you definitely want to go with the German style wire. The 18 gauge, you can go either or. You can use artistic wire if you want to. I've got the German style wire just because that's what I have on hand. Either one will work for the base. Okay. All right, so I've wrapped that 26 gauge wire around about 3 times on this single wire. Now I'm going to bring in a second wire and we are going to anchor the second wire to the first wire. And one thing you're going to notice is this wire is going to do this. right? It's going to wiggle back and forth on you. Totally fine. Just so long that we're not really close to the end on either side, okay? Until you get going, it's totally fine. So this tail, I want to keep this out of the way. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of smooth it over here and hold it out of the way with my fingers. My wire, my 26 gauge wire is coming around the front and up through the back, right? Okay, I'm going to take my second piece of 18 gauge wire and I'm going to lay that right on top with a little bit of space in between. Okay, and you're naturally going to have some space because you've got the wire wraps that are already here. So you're not going to be sitting right on top of each other. Okay, you've already created the space. That wire is coming to the back. This time, I'm going to wrap around the front, and I'm going to wrap around both wires. I'm going to wrap around both wires twice. Okay, try to get that as close as we can here so you can see. So I've got 2 wraps on this first wire where we started, and now I've got 2 wraps that are wrapping both wires together. Okay, that's the entire pattern. Simple, simple, simple. Separate the wires out, run your fingernail between there, run your finger in there to make some space. Okay, the next wrap, watch on the edge. Okay, I'm going to come up between the 2 wires, bring it down. I'm pulling that wire tight just to wrap around the bottom wire once. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Bring the tail end of the wire coming over here between the 2, pulling it down. Okay, wrapped around that bottom wire. You gotta have the space here. If you feel like you don't have enough space, open it up. It's just wire. Don't make it hard on yourself. Open it up. Give yourself some space because it's just going to close up as we work down the wires. Okay? So we've gone around the bottom wire now twice. Now, just guide the wire around both. Just bundling those wires together. Once, twice. Okay? Take a good look at it. Okay? And you can see there's a little bit of spacing between there. If you don't want that, come in there with your fingers on either side and mush them together. Right? That's it. Easy peasy. You guys can do this. I know you can. All right, so the entire pattern is 2 wraps on the bottom wire, 2 wraps on both. Okay? Give yourself space. Open up the wire. If you don't, you're just going to give yourself a headache and you're going to be cussing and you're going to throw it down. And yeah, been there, done that. Already did that for you. You don't have to do that part. Okay? All right, so we're going to keep going. And normally I would have already done all of this and we would move on to the next step. But you know, I figured this is good practice. It's good for you guys to see this. We're only doing 2.5 inches. So we're going to do all 2.5 inches together. Okay? All right, bringing that wire down here on the end, coming between the 2, right? And I'm pulling. It's the tension. The tension is going to help you. Okay? That's once. Coming back around, pull, pull twice. That's the 2 wraps on the bottom. Okay, back around, once all the way around, twice all the way around. That's both. Yes, you totally can do this. You absolutely can do this. Okay, open the wires back up if you need to. I usually use my fingernails kind of come in between. That's why I see my thumbnail. It's super, super short. There's usually a dent right in the middle of it because I'm always using my thumbnails for things. It's really kind of pointless for me to like have a nice manicure, right? All right, coming down between the 2, pulling down. That's 1 around that bottom. Second, that's 2 around the bottom. Okay, once, twice around both. Okay, come in with those thumbnails, squeeze it in. Use your pliers if you don't want to mess up your fingernails. Okay, open it back up. Take your time. Taking the wire through both, coming up through the center. Okay, once, twice. I'm really pulling, really, really pulling. I know it's thin wire, but it will take a lot. So pull on it. Don't be afraid to use force with it. There's once, twice, around both. Okay. Now, before I continue on, let's talk about the weave itself. So there is actually a name for this wire weave. I could not even begin to tell you what it is. And you know why? Because I don't care. I'm just being honest with you, okay? This is just me personally, but when I start giving names to all the different wire weaving techniques and this and that and the other, then all of a sudden it becomes really, really technical and it takes the fun out of it. So I don't know what the name of this is. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's fun and it's pretty and it's easy to do and it makes your friends go, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And it's really not that hard, right? So who cares what it's called? It's got a name. I don't know what it is. So the pattern is just 2 on the bottom wire, 2 around both. 2 on the bottom, 2 around both. You can switch this up, right? So now that you've learned how to do this, you practice this, you do 2 inches of this before we get to the pendant and like create an actual piece of jewelry out of this. Play around with the wire wrapping. Just cut yourself some wires, right? And play around. Do 3 wraps on the bottom, 3 wraps around both. 4 wraps on the bottom, 3 wraps around both. Like just change up the weave. There's technical names for all of them, but does it really matter? No, play with it. Have fun with it. This is not supposed to be intimidating. This is supposed to be fun, okay? If you want to know what the names are, go for it, look it up. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just not that technical, okay? All right, so picking up where we left off, coming up between both wires, notice the tension, okay? See how I've got it down. We're about a 1/2 inch away. Now I really start to pull, okay? When I pull, it makes the wire do what I want it to do. Same thing again, between the 2 bigger wires and pull right as you get down close to it. Pull it into place, okay? Around both. Take a look at it, squeeze them together. Make sure everything looks the way you want it to. If it doesn't, undo some of it and start over again. It's just wire. It's not going to bite you. And nobody knows if it looks like a hot mess but you, right? So there were the 2 around the small. Or not the small, on the bottom. The 2 small wraps are on the bottom. 2 around both. Coming in for just the bottom ones. Okay? Around both. Same thing. And the cool thing is that once you get a feeling for what it feels like, then you really kind of work up a rhythm. I've got a little bit of a kink here. I want to be very, very careful to undo this before it turns into a sharp bend that's going to weaken the wire. So always keep an eye on your long ends of your small gauge wire. Okay, don't let it make a sharp bend on you before you know it, because that'll weaken up the wire in that spot. So keep an eye on your tail as you're going. Okay, holding on. I just keep everything in my fingers here just to kind of hold everything together. It's not really going to go anywhere, but I feel like I've got a good grip on it. That makes me more confident with my working hand. Okay, around both. Okay, then the next one is just around that bottom. Okay, around both. 2 times, and then around the bottom. Now, let's bring in the ruler because we're going to do 2.5 inches of this. Yes. Oh, Kelly says you could do 7 or 8 inches of this and then bend around a bracelet mandrel. Absolutely. You absolutely can. So when you learn the basics, then you start playing with it and seeing what is possible, right? Okay, so we're going to look. We've got right at 1 inch of the wire wrapping. Okay, we need to keep going because we need 2.5 inches. It's not taking hardly any time at all. So we're going to keep going. Around once, twice, that's both. And then just around that bottom wire. Okay, around both. And then the bottom wire. This 26 gauge wire is going to be your best friend, okay? Start with a really small gauge wire. if you're going to try the wire weaving. If you start out with a 24 gauge wire or a 22 gauge wire, you can do the wire weaving with those bigger gauge wires, but it's less forgiving. The 26 gauge really is soft enough to give you a good feel for what you're doing. Okay. Then once you get the hang of it, you can switch it up. Try some thicker gauge wires if you want to. Okay. 2 on the bottom, 2 around all. If they overlap on you, undo it. You can come back, no problem. That's the good thing about only doing 2.5 inches of this, is because we don't have a ton. Like, even if I get down here and I've made a mess and I need to come back, it only takes a few minutes to correct your mistake. It's no problem at all. Okay. Just working our way down. 2 around both. I feel like it's hard to get the iPad to focus here. All right. 1, 2 around that bottom wire. Okay. 2 around both. The tail's wanting to kink up on me again. Okay. 2 around the bottom. Yeah, Kelly says this would be really pretty with mixed metals. It absolutely would. Mixing like the rose golds or the coppers in with the silvers or with the gold colors. Yeah, that's so, so pretty. And okay, so remember in the beginning when I told you, don't start out with artistic wire. That's just for if you're just getting started, okay? Because it's a dead soft wire. German style wire is made for this. It's going to give you less of a headache. But once you get good at this, if you want to use the colors that are available in all the artistic wires, you totally can. I'm not saying that you can't use artistic wire to do this kind of thing. I'm just saying that when you're starting out, it's really good to start out with the wire that is specifically designed for this kind of wire wrapping. Look at the little indentation in my finger. All right, bringing the ruler in. Let's check again. All right, so we're pretty close to 2 inches. We're getting there. Okay. Whoops. Going around 2 all together, and then 2 on that bottom wire. Okay. 2 around both. You can put stones in your weave. What's really cool about this is that once you get the hang of it, you can really start to get kind of crazy with it, right? You can add really small stones to this. You could use seed beads, you know, in each one of your wraps. You could attach a seed bead to this. I mean, you can get really intricate with this. Start with an easy pattern, get the hang of it, and then go crazy with it. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Once you figure this out and you get good at it, then you've got this structure that you can now take and you can wrap around a cabochon or a larger bead. So it really kind of opens things up a bit. If you've never done it before and you try it and you realize, wow, that's a lot easier than I thought it was, then it kind of opens up some creative doors that maybe you hadn't considered before. Around both, and then around the 2. All right, and you can see how it gets bent on me? That's okay. That's fine. It's just wire. I can flatten it back out. All right, checking on the wire wrapping. We're pretty darn close. So I'm going to go maybe 2 or 3 more times, and then we will have the amount that we need. So 2 around both, 2 around just that bottom wire, 2 around both, 2 around the bottom. So when you get used to doing 2 wires, when you get comfortable wrapping 2 wires together with a weave, then you can add a third wire, right? A third 18 gauge wire or a fourth wire. So not only can you change up the wire weave itself, but you can also change up your structure wires. So you can change the gauge on those and the color on those and the number of those. And you would just start the exact same way, okay? Just anchor the wires together. That's all. That's really probably the biggest question that I get asked about wire weaving is how do you get started? Because like once you get the pattern going, it just kind of works itself up before you even realize it. But getting started and anchoring all the pieces of wire together, that part can be kind of frustrating if you don't know. Okay, so we went over just a little bit. Let's undo a couple of these. Whoops. Okay, let's see. Undo. So I want to end with 2 wraps on just the bottom wire. It really doesn't make that much of a difference, but I like it. I like for it to end the same way that it started, right? Okay, so it's a little short, but that's okay. I'm good with it. All right, so I'm just going to bring that wire to the back. And I'm just going to trim it off. We don't need it anymore. Okay. Now I've got a good bit of wire left. I probably got about 15 inches of wire left. So I had more of that 26 gauge wire than I needed, but definitely a good choice if you're just getting started with wire weaving, because adding on wire can be frustrating if you are not used to it. Okay. So then we have this tail on the other end as well. I'm going to come down here and trim it off. Okay, so we've got 2 wires on either end, and if you'll notice, I didn't end up in the center. I've got more wire on this side than the other side. That's totally fine. I'm good with that. We're going to trim some of this off anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. I did measure more wire than we needed, again, because if you're just starting out, you want to be sure that you've got a lot of wire to hold on to until you get a feel for it, okay? And then you can start trimming it down and you don't need all of that extra wire to hold on to. Okay, so we're gonna make 2 cuts because we've got 2 wires and they're both gonna need a different length. Excuse me, because we're gonna make loops on the ends. One loop's gonna be bigger than the other, so we are obviously gonna need to have 2 different measurements here. So for let's see here. 1/2 short. I made myself a note and now I have no idea what the note means. Interesting. I love it when I do that. Okay, so for the 1/1/2 short, I have no idea what I wrote to myself. Like, look at this. This makes no sense. 2.5 weave, 3/4 double, 1/2 short, 21 millimeters round. Okay. Sure, Sarah, whatever you say. Okay, so what I want is for the larger, we're going to make a larger loop with our small bail making pliers on this top wire. The top wire is the wire where we've bundled around both. Okay, so if you're holding it this way, flip it over this direction. Okay, so that the bundle wire that does both of them is up here on the top. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we are going to trim off, how much wire do we need here? That's what my measurement was, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So we need about 3/4 of an inch, okay? So right at the edge of the first wire wrap is where you want to start, or where you want to lay it on your ruler, okay? Then you want to come in with your cutter tool, find that 3/4 mark, and go ahead and trim off, okay? So this one is 3/4 of an inch long. This one on the top needs to be more of about 1/2 inch. So, and it's actually a little over 1/2 inch. So we're just going to kind of eyeball it. Okay. So one of them is a little bit longer than the other. Okay. Just want to be sure that you get them the same on both ends, right? Don't cut your top wire accidentally short and have them 2 different. You want to be sure that they match. Okay, same thing. I'll flip this over here just so I can get a good look at it. Come in with my cutter tool. And 3/4, if I could hold on to it, that'd be good. 3/4 on that one. And then a little over 1/2 inch on the other. All right. So, this is what we've got so far. Okay. All right, now we're going to come in with the bell making pliers. I'm using the small bell making pliers for this. The shorter piece on the bottom, obviously, we're going to use the smaller mandrel. The longer piece on the top, we're going to use the larger mandrel, and the loops are going to go in opposite directions, okay? So start with whichever one you want to. Doesn't really make any difference. You can separate them out. Totally fine. You're not going to hurt anything, okay? All right, so I'm going to start with the shorter wire, and I'm just grabbing that wire right at the very, very tip. I'm going to roll back to create a loop, okay? Same thing on the other side, but I'm just going to use the larger part of the tool. Whoops. Roll that one back. So we've got 2 different size loops on that end. We're going to just repeat the exact same process down here on the other end. Separate the wires out, just so you can get your tool in there, okay? We're going to roll this one down. Okay. Same thing, just using the other side to roll this one down. So that measurement was a really good rule of thumb. You might want to make a note of that if you weren't paying attention. So this is something that I wish that I had written down in something that made sense, but now I realize what it was. So I will make an actual note. If you are cutting wire and you're getting to the end and you need to make a loop at the end and you're using the small bell making pliers, the larger mandrel, okay, in order to make a full loop, you need 3/4 of an inch of wire to create that size loop. Make a note. To create a full-size loop with the smaller mandrel of the small bell making pliers, you need just a pinch over 1/2 inch of wire. Okay, that's good to know for a million other projects that you're going to have in the future, where you get to the end of something and you've got to trim off the wire and you don't want to cut it too short or too long. You need just enough to make a loop at the end. That's the measurement. 3/4, 1/2. Okay, that's good. Good thing to remember. I wish it had made sense on the little note that I made. Okay, before we do anything else, we're going to come in with our nylon jaw pliers, and we're just going to kind of clamp down on this. We're going to just bite down on the full length of the wire weave that we did. This is just going to help to kind of work harden it a bit. It's going to make sure that the wires on the inside of the wire weave are going to lay nice and flat, and just kind of chomping down on it. You can put it on a block if you want to and hit it with a nylon hammer. Just don't overdo it, because if you make it if you work harden it too much, you're going to have a harder time creating this kind of horseshoe shape that we're going to turn this into, okay? So I'm just kind of giving it a little squeeze with my pliers, biting down on it just a bit. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to create this shape, right? So we're going to go from straight to this. And to do that, I'm using my artistic wire mandrel tool for this. You don't have to. You can use anything that is round shaped, and you're looking to make about, let's see, 21 millimeters around. It's not a full circle, okay? It's more of a horseshoe, and the mandrel is just going to be the guide. You're really going to use your fingers more than anything. So what we're going to do, okay, one thing that's going to happen, the first thing you're going to notice, don't panic. First thing that's going to happen is, as you start to lay this on the tool and turn it, okay, to try to make your shape, the 2 wires on the inside are going to want to twist, okay? Watch, and I'll show you. It's okay, totally okay, because we can flatten it all back out, right? It's just wire. So I'm going to lay my mandrel down so that I've got both hands, and I'm just going to very slowly, right, guiding that wire. Now look at what happens. See how that wire wants to lay flat? So where it was nice and crisp, and lay in exactly the way we wanted it to, it naturally wants to lay down, right? It wants to flatten itself out. That's okay. We're going to make it do what we want it to do one way or another. We're just going to go slow. And that's really the key here, okay? Don't put it on your mandrel tool or whatever circle that you're using for your armature. Don't put it on there and go quick with it. Go slow. Make it do exactly what you want it to do. If you make small, slow movements, they're easier to correct than if you take huge, fast bends. Those are very, very difficult to undo. All right, so we're creating this shape, okay? You can see how it wants to lay. I'm just gonna flatten it back out with my fingers, make it do what I want it to do. Okay, so we've got a horseshoe shape, but what I want is more of a circular shape, right? I'm not gonna be able to achieve that with this mandrel. I'm gonna have to come in with my fingers. I'm gonna have to use my nylon jaw pliers to really manipulate the shape that I want. And like I said, if you go slow and make slow, smooth, gentle movements, you can really manipulate it into the shape that you want, okay? Because I really want mine to be more circular, right? More coming in here at the bottom than just a straight kind of horseshoe shape, okay? So you can see where I've manipulated that into the shape that I want. And they're not exactly the same, but they're pretty darn close, right? Just a little bit more squeezing. If you want to overlap those two loops here as you're squeezing down and then release to bring it back, that's also going to help kind of bring in that circular shape. It's not a perfect circle, okay? Look at it. It's very organic. This is not a perfect shape. You're never going to get perfection with wire weaving unless you have been doing this for 100 years. So take that into consideration, okay? Take it into consideration. When you're manipulating the wire, you're never going to get perfection. If you're looking for perfection, your wire weaving might not be what what you want, unless you can really accept it, okay? Accept the imperfections in this. Now I'm just going to go back over this. Again, I could put this on the block if I wanted to and hit it with a nylon hammer just to work harden to ensure that that shape is going to remain what I want it to be. But I feel pretty secure in this. That 18 gauge wire, that's nice sturdy stuff. It's not really going to come undone. I don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, so now what I want is I want to add some sparkle to this. And excuse me. So I'm going to use one of these star-shaped beads. It's side drilled. We're going to wire wrap this so that it hangs between the two larger loops, and there's still some space in between there, so I'm going to add these two little bicones as well that were also on the strand, so you don't have to buy extra, right? You just get this one strand of the Swarovski over on Jessie James Beads, and you've got all the beads that you need for this. Okay, so I've got some extra 26 gauge wire that we were using to do the wire weaving, so that's what we're going to use to attach our star bead. I'm just going to cut myself a short section of this. Doesn't really matter how much you've got, okay? And one of the first things I recommend doing, particularly if this is your first go at really kind of getting down and dirty with wire, take your pliers, open up that large loop just slightly so that you've got enough room to get that wire in between there, right? So you're not having to like actually go in between the loop. You can actually cheat it a little bit, okay? Just by opening it up, okay? All right, so we're just gonna go on one side, and I'm just going to see how I've laid that 26 gauge wire into the loop, okay? I'm just gonna wire wrap it to anchor it in there. And actually, let me do this direction so that I can really utilize the opening here. See how when I'm wrapping around, I'm clearing that space instead of having to go through the loop. So I just want to wire wrap about 4 times. Get that in there, okay? about 4 times around. Mash those wraps together so they're nice and uniform. Go ahead and trim that tail off. That's on the back. Okay, so now I am ready to add the beads. So I'm going to add one of the bicones. I'm going to thread on my star and another one of the bicones. Okay, and those are going to, whoa, well, those are going to roll off into the floor. That's what's going to happen. Okay, give me just a second. Let me see if I can fish these little bicones out of the carpet. Hold on. Found them. That was much easier than I expected it to be. When you lose a bicone in the carpet might just end up keeping it. Okay, let's try that again. Threading on the bicone, threading on the star-shaped bead and the bicone, and this time I'm going to actually hold on to it so we don't lose anything. Okay, so now this is going to sit right between the 2 loops. Okay, so now we need to wire wrap over here on the other side, and because I've opened up that loop, this is going to be a whole lot easier to do. Coming to the inside, see how I just cheated it by going right through there. I'm going to do my 4 wire wraps on this side. Okay, flip it over here to the back, trim that off. And there you go. You can actually stop at this point if you wanted to. Do need to close these loops back up. Get the fuzz off of it that I brought up here from the carpet. All right. So you can actually stop at this point if you wanted to. This would make a beautiful pendant all by itself. You can make another one of these in the exact same way and create yourself some beautiful earrings. But I want this to be a pendant. This is actually a pendant that I intend to wear. Sometimes I make stuff and I don't wear it, you know, but this is one that I actually made for myself. So I'm going to add some extra sparkle to this, and you know the best way to do that is with Swarovski. And so I'm going to save all of the grunt work. You guys, I'm not going to make you sit through all of this, but I do want to show you what I've done. So I've taken 3 pieces of chain in various lengths, okay? And I've just added some extra Swarovski beads to this. These were all beads that were on that strand, so everything can be one-stop shop, right? I wire wrapped these. I put them on head pins that have a ball on the end because the head pins that I had were slipping through them. The holes are a little large, but just staggered the length. They're all on a 4mm jump ring. I'm going to open up this jump ring, and well, maybe if I have another pair of pliers. Here we go. So I'm going to open up this jump ring, and I'm just going to hook that to this loop here, because I love extra movement and sparkle to my pieces. Totally feel free to skip this step if you don't want all of this extra stuff hanging down, right? So there's one side. Now I've done the exact same thing on the other side. Taken 3 pieces of chain, put them together on a 4mm jump ring. The lengths are different. It's not the same. I'm totally cool with that. One side's a little bit shorter than the other side. I didn't want it to be uniform. I wanted it to really feel asymmetrical and organic. All right, so hooking that one on. Okay, so now when you lay it down, you've got this really fun, lots of shimmer and shine going on. I even have an extra little bicone that I saved that I want to hang right here in the center. Don't have to do that part if you don't want to. And I've got some jump rings here that I'm going to use to attach that. So I've got, let's see, what do I have here? Always forget. That 4mm jump ring. I've got 1 4mm jump ring and 3 6mm jump rings. They're all hooked together. That's just how I took them off of the original. So I'm just going to leave them like they are. Go ahead and thread that bicone onto that 4mm jump ring. Okay. And now I'm going to use the top jump ring is going to be the jump ring that my chain goes through. So that's the next jump ring down that's really going to be the one that attaches here, right? I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but this part I figure is pretty easy to just kind of work with it and figure it out, you know, on your own. You don't have to use all these jump rings. You can do whatever you want. So you can make a wire bail for this if you wanted to, okay? So there's all of that. And now the only thing that is left, and actually that's not what I wanted. That's not how I wanted that to go. I did the wrong jump ring. I want this bottom jump ring. Not the bottom, it's the bottom 6 millimeter. Because I want my jump rings to be hanging a certain way, right? So I can thread my chain on here and it hang the right way. That's why I say this part you can really kind of play with yourself and figure out exactly what you want. That's why I did it. So that jump ring in the middle is laying flat. This one on the top needs to be facing me so that I can run a piece of chain through it. And then I'm going to put it on a bust so that you guys can see this laying flat. And then I will let you get on with the rest of your Friday. I'm going to pop this jump ring off to thread this through. You could thread this on fairy silk if you wanted to. You could thread this onto leather. Doesn't have to be chain. I just picked chain just because that's what I had on hand, and you know, but you can change it up. What gauge are the jump rings? You know what? I don't know for sure. If I had to guess, I would say that they are 22 millimeter jump rings. That's pretty standard. I know they're not quite 20. But really, whatever jump ring you want to use that you feel comfortable with. The 22 are nice and strong, so I don't really worry about them coming apart. All right. Yes, Wanda, I'm going to grab a bust. And I've got it right here. So I'm going to flip you guys around. Had to grab a bust. Okay, so let me attach this real quick, and then I will hold it up for you guys to see, because it really looks different on a bust than it does laying flat. So let me attach this here for you guys. I really hope that for those of you who are afraid of wire wrapping, I really hope that you will, this is just not working out for me today, really hope that you will take this project and try it. You can do this. I know that you can. I know that wire wrapping has a tendency to look really, really hard, but it's not. It's not as hard as you think it is. You just have to be patient. Joan, you are so silly. All right, so here it is on a bust so that you can see it and see how beautifully it hangs. You've got all of the sparkle down here on the bottom. If that's too much for you, you can totally omit that part, right? You can even omit this little bicone that's hanging down here if you want to. Just for me personally, I love all of the sparkle, right? I'm gonna wear this with my blue jeans and my ugly Ugg boots. I'm not even afraid. I don't care if I'm not going anywhere fancy. I'm gonna wear this no matter what. So don't be afraid to go with your sparkle, you guys. Totally rock that sparkle. Even on a Friday afternoon. All right, you guys, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. So before I go, I just want to mention once again, because I don't want anybody to miss out on the opportunity. So first week of February, I will be in Tucson. I'm teaching a full day of classes at Tohana Chul, which is a beautiful botanical garden. There is, I always feel like I say botanical, I don't know. Anyway, it's a botanical garden. And there's a room where we're going to have wonderful food. We're going to have classes, teaching 3 classes. You're going to walk away with, let's see, 5, 6, 7 pieces of jewelry. 3 classes, 7 pieces of jewelry. You can't beat that. And we're going to take a guided tour of the gardens outside right after lunch. It's going to be a really fun experience. If Tucson is on your bucket list, because the end of January and the beginning of February, Tucson, that's where everybody in the industry kind of comes together. There are the gem and mineral shows. There's tons of bead shows. The To Bead True Blue will be happening. Beadalon has a booth there. And Sarah and I will be at To Be True Blue, but we're going as shoppers. We're not going to be in a booth. So Jesse James Speeds won't have a booth there because we're going to be spending the day teaching classes. But then we'll be around. We're going to be going around picking out things for you guys to make beautiful jewelry with. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. But Tucson is on your list. Let us know. We can help. You can get the tickets over on jessejamesspeeds.com. That's just the ticket for the day class, right? But if you're looking for a travel partner, my friend Melanie, she's looking for somebody to travel with because it helps to cut down on the expenses. If you are looking for hotels, travel, all of that stuff, that can be that's the pricey part, right? Well, if you travel with somebody else or you find somebody to room with, that's going to cut down on it quite a bit. We've got some suggestions for you. Send Sarah James a message over on Facebook. Well, we're already on Facebook, but you know what I mean. Send her a private message. Reach out to her and let her know that you are looking to go, but you need some help with the travel part of it, and she can make some suggestions for you. She's really good about all that. So if you're interested in coming to Tucson, let's do it. It's going to be a wonderful adventure. Going to the desert, we're going to kind of spiritually reset ourselves and gear up for this new 2020, this wonderful year of new creative, fun wonderfulness. So if you need some time to recharge and to learn a new skill, come hang out with us. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have a lot of fun. Be me, Sarah James, and Meredith Roddy. You'll have us all day. So it'll be good stuff. Come hang out if you can. And that is it for me. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys here on Friday afternoons. Have a great afternoon. I will post on Facebook to let you know for sure about the Monday question and answer Mondays. Okay, so go ahead and start sending me your questions and I will work that in and I will post for absolute sure on the time and place for that to happen. All right, have a great day. I will see you guys again next week. Bye.